Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 8 breakdown for the Case tournament that happened this past weekend in person in Arizona here. It was hosted by Olympus Games as well as Champions Gaming, and it was really fun to be a part of. I'm really happy it all worked out. So real quick before we get started, first, if you guys care about these deck lists or any other OP03 deck lists, make sure to check the description to this page here. It has all my events that I'm covering for this format, and there's going to be obviously a lot more as we keep getting into this format, as well as big shout outs to just again Olympus Games and Champions Gaming for letting me and Nico do the commentary and everything a part of it. It was a lot of fun. And if you guys want to see the Twitch stream, it's linked in the description as well as on this page, and it should be re-uploaded to this YouTube channel in the next couple of days as well, so you guys can check that out. But it was 5 rounds of Swiss into a top 8 cut, and a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So into this top 8 we did have 3 Rob Lucci's, which was a little high, I think so, and one of them did win with Clay piloting it there. We also had 2 Zoros, 2 Trafalgar Laws, as well as 1 Whitebeard. So no yellow in the top 8, which is a little surprising. I know a lot of people were on it, and again, so many Rob Lucci's, which is a little interesting for this. So I think that's kind of also just the area that we're in. I know a lot of people who are on it right now too. So but it is a very, very strong deck when you're able to go with it, and I've been personally having a lot of success with it too. So we're gonna go over all the lists essentially. Starting off with our first place. So this is Clay's list here. It's also the same list that Yonas ran for this event, which also was the same list that I have on my YouTube channel from earlier this week too. So if you want to check that out, highly recommend. Jonas has a little bit more insight than what I can give, but in general, it's just a very strong deck for what you can do. I think the big pieces are just like the Kaku. Kaku is just such a good card for this archetype in black in general, right? There's just so many times where we have all these destruction effects, such as even the Sakazuki, where you have to discard a card for it, which means you're kind of going like minus in hand advantage for like the good tempo kind of thing. But Kaku is technically free as long as you set up your drop area, or sorry, your trash, which is not too terribly hard to do, especially if you just need to counter out stuff. You can get them there, and then in conjunction of using it with Kuzan or even like a Suru to get something into range for this is not very tricky. So turn 1 or 2 playing either the Spandam or the brand new. Turn 2 you go into Kuzan, and then after that you go into Kaku the turn afterwards. Very great, gets you a lot of tempo, and you don't like lose any card advantage. Actually, Kuzan draws a card, and then Kaku gets rid of something without having to draw a card, which drop a card too, which is really strong. So other cards are Bluno. This is kind of a good value card in a lot of ways. I know the 5-drop spot is kind of cramped in a lot of ways, but being able to use this and then being able to say, oh, I'm a blocker, and they try to get rid of it, you can get another 6k body off with the Kumadori as well. So really like this deck. It's very strong. It's very consistent, which I think is very strong in its own right as well, and something to definitely be kind of aware of. I will say that yellow's sometimes a hard matchup for it too, so maybe not as many people were playing as yellow, I think, as maybe as other events, which maybe meant that this Rob Lucci could go well, but it is a very, very strong deck. I also do want to look at Peter's list real quick, because they did have some additional changes. They are running the Air Door version, which it's you pretty much go in or go out on this guy. It's a little bit bricky, and it's a little bit you have to really commit into playing the Air Door cards, but if you're able to go off, you do get a bit of a tempo advantage, especially if you go second, because you can go get Kaku out on turn 4, or 4 dawn turn, which is great, which means if you play the Air Door on 4 and you play Kaku pretty much pops anything your opponent already has on board, which is nice. Bluno early is already good too, and as well as Jabra, which you can use. It's a 5/7. A 5/7 on turn 2 is kind of silly to get out already, but it's a very good card in that way, even though it's just stats you can get there. So congratulations to Peter for their finish there with this. And then again, Jonas pretty much played exactly the same list for this one. So anyways, next up we have MagCyver with their Newgate, and we only had 1 Newgate in the top 8, and MagCyver went he went undefeated in Swiss, and he didn't even drop a game in the top 8 until he got to the final. So it was spoilers. It was a 2-1 finish there, with MagCyver just needing 1 more game for the day to get it, but it was super close, and he piloted the deck very, very well. So I don't think it's any surprise that this is a strong deck right now. It was a strong deck in set 2, and it only got more support as we went into set 3. So obviously Marcos are already an archetype. Some decision points for this one, I'd say, are the Monkey D. Luffy being able to, this is kind of like a relic of like the Straw Hat version of Newgate, but this is still a menacing card. And if you're playing something like Black or like Trafalgar Law that just has a bunch of blockers to try to keep you away, this can still just end the game in a lot of ways. It's very, very strong in that sense. We also do have like the Thatch, a couple copies of this just because it's a 6/8, and that's very good for you. And Whitebeard Pirates too, which we weren't playing as much in the original build, and you don't trigger this off your life as often just because it's a card that you don't usually take a lot of hits with Newgate, but being able to use it to find the pieces you need, including like the Edward Newgate, the Marco on curve, and just having like another turn 1 play or turn 2 play is very strong, because otherwise it's just ISO, and getting like another shot with this card I think is good too. So very strong deck. It's also just a Whitebeard's Pirate, so either of your Marcos can trash it for their effects, and it's very good there. So I don't think Newgate's going anywhere, and I think it's very strong for this format still. So congratulations to MacGyver on that one. Next up we have our Zoro decks, and so we have Gage's list here, and both kind of the two lists we were looking at, Gage's and Avi's, there are some kind of fundamental differences with them, but obviously Zoro is good in this meta too. It's pretty much been viable since it came out, and some additions for this one, and I keep saying this, is that Zoro is not kind of like in your face rush aggro as it used to be. It's definitely more of a deck that kind of gets a lot of mid-range advantage a lot of ways, and you do incorporate the Whitebeard Pirates stuff most of the time. But some decisions for this one, Buggy and the Curly to Dan engine, kind of really great. The Fire Fist, I think, is one of the cards that's just really great for this archetype. And if you really want to beat stuff like Trafalgar Law, this is such a good card. So being able to discard an event from your hand to give something, KO something with 5k and 4k is great, especially when you have Gordons and Otamas to kind of get things into that range a little bit easier. So this can easily pop a 5 and 6k if you have enough setup with it too. So that's very good. It's also Whitebeard Pirates. It's also searchable with Buggy and everything else. So obviously I think this card is really bad against Rob Lucci, because Rob Lucci generally doesn't have a lot of cards you can pop with these effects, since they have like their Borsalinos or Fukurus. Otherwise everything else is kind of out of range until you do it. And even if you only try to get rid of one card, Fire Fist only you still need to discard the extra card with it. So it can be kind of clunky specifically against Rob Lucci, but I think in a lot of other matchups it has it can really just kind of turn the tempo to your side a lot of the time. So really good tech there, and obviously searchable off Buggy or ISO too, which is nice. Other than that, kind of just the basic package that we see a lot of the time. And then also if we look at Avi's list here, one big thing is that he's not running the 9-drop Newgate that we did see in Gage's list. And being able to have a little bit more this is a more aggressive build in a lot of ways, just because you don't have as much as the high end. We're only running one copy of Fire Fist. We do have like a tech of Vista, which is kind of like just a 5th copy of Marco in a lot of ways. We also don't have we have the Marshall D Teach, which is not in the other build. So being able to use this card for just a lot of advantage is really nice. Being able to, for the record, you have to trash the card on board, since I know a lot of people have been kind of debating how this works, but with Zoro and being able to pump something up to 4k very easily, it's not terribly hard to do this with Marshall D Teach. So being able to get the cycle, being able to get the card draw, being able to be an 8k with one Dawn on Zoro, and then also popping something else that's on the board. It's also very good if you're just trying to go for game. It's not, if you don't think you're going to get another turn, sure, pop your Marco that you already attacked with. You can get an extra 1k on this Marshall, and sometimes that can get you the game. So I like this card. I think 2 is about the right, because sometimes it can be stuck in your hand, but is a Whitebeard Pirate, so you can pitch it off your Marcos, and it does have a lot of synergy with the deck and how easy it is to get to something with 4k. So anyways, this is Avi's list. Congratulations there. Next up we have our Trafalgar Laws. So this is Cole's list, but also if we look at our other list here, and it is Jim, but Cole and Jim, they are running pretty much the same build. The only difference is that the difference of 3 beige versus 4 and a jet pistol. So Cole put a jet pistol, and Jim decided to not to, but Law's very good. And even though it did get 8th for both these, top 8 for both of these, it didn't get farther into top 8. I truly think Trafalgar Law is like the best deck in terms of matchup spreads. I don't feel like any matchup in this game is really unwinnable for this deck right now. It's very strong. There's a lot of ways for you to tech if you really want to kind of get an edge on one specific matchup a lot of the time. It really dumpsters yellow. I think yellow has a really hard time against Trafalgar Law. Once they start setting up, and since yellow doesn't have a lot of onboard interactions, it's just very, very strong for them. And there's also like the new tech of like the Brook that we see here. So it's the Film Brook. You get to play up to a one film or Straw Hat Crew type character with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So that can be obviously a Zoro, either the Rush Zoro or also the Star Deck Zoro. This can also mean you can use it for like even a Nami. You can even use like a 2-drop Brook, which means you can put 2 Dawn underneath something. It's just really good on like turn 2 or 3 to help you get to the pieces you need to. But it plays 7 costs worth of stuff, right? You play Brook, you play Zoro, you have a 5k and a 5k out, and this can become a 6k very easily, and you just get a lot of advantage for it. So I think that's something that's a newer tech, but I do think it's strong for this deck, and has been helping get the board set up your shambles a little bit better and a little bit more consistently too, and just have like a bulkier board too. So I think both these lists are great. Obviously they're very similar, and again, I think Trafalgar Law is it is a bit tricky, I feel like, but man, the 5 cost blocker is so good. This is such a good card. I just see it. It's so obnoxious. They get to recycle so much value from it, and I feel like once they see this, I just lose more times than not. It's just very, very hard to get out, and it gets so much tempo as well in a lot of ways. So anyways, that is the Trafalgar Law list there, and that's going to be it for our breakdown. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Shouts to again my co-caster Nico, to Olympus Games as well as Champion Gaming for hosting this, and our judges and our tournament organizers, and just really everything else. Also the voice actors too. They are very, very kind, and I'll probably be re-uploading my interviews with them too. It was a really, really fun experience for me. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.